The deal is done, coming out about an hour ago. Drew Brees and the Saints agreeing to a 2-year deal worth a maximum of $50 million. And we all knew this was going to happen, but you creep up to a deadline and you get people anxious, and it's understandable, but that's why we tried to talk some people off the ledge, even though I was facetiously pushing people closer to the ledge. But now everybody can come back, settle down. Saints are fired up. Drew Brees is fired up. Our good buddy Mike Triplett of ESPN actually had a chance to catch up with Drew Brees this morning. We'll relay those comments. Also, so many other Saints tidbits. I'm just going to throw the phone number out there right now because I'm sure people want to get involved. 504-260-1280. Let me lay out the guest list. I thought about just scrapping every guest, but said, no, let's too much going on up in Baton Rouge. You want to talk with our own Andrew Lopez. We'll talk with him at 10:30, and then in the 11 o'clock hour, we'll talk with Brett Martell, the Associated Press, who I'm sure is putting finger to keyboard right now, writing the Drew Brees story. And Jeff, deal makes sense. It's basically the parameters you and me have talked about again and again and again. We knew it would come down to the end, nearing the deadline. They've gotten it done, and it seems like the way that the deal is being reportedly structured, that this will give the Saints flexibility, and that Drew Brees certainly gave a discount. Yes. Certainly, there's no question he gave the Saints a discount.
Well, we're going to see soon because Kirk Cousins is probably going to sign a deal for around $30 million here tomorrow, and I don't think anybody believes Kirk Cousins is worth more on the open market than Drew Brees. And Jimmy Garoppolo signed for more money. Jimmy Garoppolo is obviously much younger, but Drew Brees, on the other side of things, is going to be paid more money than any 40-year-old quarterback in NFL history. So there is that.
Absolutely.
It's a different circumstance and a very unique circumstance for both sides, but they had to get it done now. We all knew it, and so it came in right where everybody thought it would come in. So really to me, this was not news.
Well, it's certainly news.
I know you know what I mean. It's news if he doesn't sign,
right,
more so than him signing. We all knew this was going to happen. It was exactly the deal we thought. 2-year deal. It's kind of what I thought. So, now the Saints can move forward. I actually think some of the bigger news is the fact that they're not going to tender Delvin Breaux, and that they've elected to tender Willie Snead.
Right.
Both those things are interesting to me.
Right, absolutely. We'll dive into that, and we've discussed that proposition of the restricted free agents, so we'll dive into that. I'll just give you guys some of the details of what's being reported out there as far as Adam Schefter is saying that the Drew Brees deal will be written as a 2-year deal, but in actuality it will be a 1-year deal with a team option after the first year. It will also include a no-trade clause, virtually ensuring that Brees finishes his career in New Orleans. I'm curious to see how far back some of this dead cap money is going to go, because they're going to have to spread this out. Who cares? If you're the Saints right now, you deal with that later on in life, because at that point when Drew Brees is on his way out and retiring, I'm assuming they would be going with a young quarterback, and the price tag for that young quarterback would be cheap anyway. So I bet you that's what the Saints are figuring if you're looking to the future for this deal. That's probably their mindset.
That's exactly what their mindset is. They say they have Taysom Hill or a rookie quarterback. You're paying them less than $1 million a year. So if you have $20-something million in dead money, you're still allocated the same amount on your cap that you did when you were paying Drew Brees. And so that's part of the strategy and the plan. It makes a lot of sense. Of course, the issue there is you're paying a guy, in essence, paying him what you paid Drew Brees. But it's a way of kind of cheating the system a little bit. I think it's pretty smart.
I think when you're going for it like this, and you're the Saints, how long have you had to pay a quarterback for? Over a decade, you've had to pay pretty significant money. That's not the case with every team in the league. At one point, Aaron Rodgers didn't make a ton of money. At one point, Russell Wilson didn't. So the Saints have always been, in the Drew Brees era, in a unique circumstance where they've always had to pay pretty the original Brees deal wasn't total top dollar, but as you kept going, you've had to do this because you're not letting your franchise quarterback walk away.
And they couldn't afford to. I mean, I think last year was a unique situation because neither side knew what was going to happen. Neither side knew how the team was going to perform. Was it in Brees' best interest to move on and try and win another Super Bowl somewhere else? Was it going to get blown up here in the front office? Now that everything's settled, this team is a playoff contender again. It makes sense for Drew Brees to finish his career here. I mean, now next year he will break Peyton Manning's NFL career passing yardage record. Assuming he stays healthy, he'll break it as a Saint. He's going to break the record for most games played in Saints history. I mean, all these things mean a lot to a guy like Brees, who's a historian of the game, appreciates his legacy, and all that. He needs to do it as a New Orleans Saint. So that's really what this is all about today, getting your franchise quarterback back under terms, and now they can focus on the rest of the roster because the rest of the league, as we've noted on here a bunch of times, the NFC is, it seems to me like all the moves are going in the NFC just about. I know the Browns and the Bills, they don't count. But these contenders in the NFC are bolstering their rosters. The Saints are going to have to keep making moves, I think, to keep pace.
Yeah, we're going to keep this situation fluid because free agency is moving fast and furious, and as news comes across, we will certainly bring it to you right here on Dunc Holder. But just want to relay some of the comments that Drew Brees told our good buddy, former colleague Mike Triplett, who's now at ESPN. He asked him some pretty poignant questions, and Drew Brees gave him some pretty poignant answers. I'll just read what Mike put on Twitter saying about his new deal, saying, quote, "There was no doubt in our minds, I think both myself and the Saints, that we were going to get a deal done. It was just a matter of what was the most fair deal for me and for the team to put us in the best position to succeed in the near future, a la they know they've got a window and they wanted to get something done that would be beneficial." And Brees said he would be, quote-unquote, lying if he didn't admit it's hard to decide between taking max value and keep raising the bar for other players. And that's something we've talked about for years. Drew Brees has always been a union guy. He doesn't want to shortchange the quarterback position and salaries by taking less because he doesn't want that to affect other players in the future. And the first time we've heard that isn't the second time we've heard that, and it probably won't be the fourth or fifth time we've heard that. We always known that's got to be in Drew's DNA.
And it's exactly what happened. I mean, he both sides compromised a little bit here for the good of the greater end. The means to the end here is to try and win another Super Bowl. The Saints' best shot at doing that is with Drew Brees at quarterback. And Drew Brees' best shot is going to be playing in this system where he is a perfect fit in Sean Payton's offense. I don't know why it had to go down to this. I mean, I always ask these questions because this is exactly what the deal we all thought was going to happen months ago. I don't know why they do. I mean, they both know they're going to arrive at this point. It seems silly to me to take it down to the last minute, but that's just the way it goes here with Condon and Loomis.
And more from Drew Brees saying, adding on to that quote, but for me, this was about putting our team in the best position to go win a championship in the next few years. And Mike adding that he practically apologized to agent Tom Condon for not allowing him to max out his value, which certainly would have been more in the open market. There's no doubt about it. And all the salary cap gurus out there who guys we trust, say like a Joel Corey, he was saying on Twitter that there's no doubt the Saints, Drew Brees did a favor to the Saints because if him getting less money than Jimmy Garoppolo shouldn't have happened. Like if there's an open market, teams are going to pay Drew Brees more than Jimmy Garoppolo, even if it's just for the short term.
No doubt about it. And Brees knows that. Brees is hyper aware of everything going on in the league and contract terms. He's a former executive with the NFL Players Association, so I can see why he would be conflicted because it's up to him and guys like Tom Brady to kind of pay it forward for the future quarterbacks of this league and set the bar. But it is a very unique situation. There's unusual circumstances with players around 40. We saw the exact same thing with Peyton Manning. I mean, he took a lesser deal in his final years so Denver could make a Super Bowl run. And it makes sense for Brees to do it now, too.
And the Manning deal was similar to the Brees deal in that the second year is basically a team option, and who orchestrated that contract, too, was Tom Condon. He's Peyton Manning's agent, also Drew Brees' agent. So,
does anybody think the team's not going to exercise the option?
Well, if Drew Brees people are going to hate me. I'll knock on as much wood. If Drew Brees stays healthy, what if he gets hurt? Then what do you do?
Well, of course. That goes without saying. But
yeah,
the point is,
look, there's an extreme.
The point is, I mean, I'm not calling it a 1-year deal. I'm calling it a 2-year deal.
I don't expect him to play any less than 2 years.
Yeah, I mean,
and who knows? Maybe more.
If it were a 1-year deal, it would be a 1-year deal.
Right.
So I mean, it's a 2-year deal, and
well, it's also the 2-year deal, so you can extend the money later.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. It's a 2-year deal, and $50 million is exactly what we thought it would be. And I think now the Saints are really going to start getting interesting.
Let me bring up some interesting tidbits that have already been floating around there. I think we've maybe talked about a Jimmy Graham reunion once or twice or 15,000 times on this show within the last week. Jay Glazer, who I think Jay Glazer actually broke the story. I'm not totally sure because it seemed like once it got out, everybody got it. But Jay Glazer were saying that with the Brees deal done, the Saints know what their cap is. They still want a 3 technique and a DB. So they're looking for a defensive tackle and a corner, which are both positions we've kind of mentioned. But saying that a Jimmy Graham reunion is the top priority if they can pull that off. And Mike Triplett had a chance to ask Drew Brees about that this morning. And Drew Brees saying, all I'll say is I would love nothing more than to have Jimmy back. He'd be even better fit now than he was when he started with us. Does that maybe put smoke where there might be some fire and there might be a Jimmy Graham reunion?
That's definitely an endorsement.
I think so.
That's a definite endorsement. You can almost now. I know there's some other interest around the league. The Packers, I believe, have shown interest. Maybe the Texans, I believe. But if Jimmy Graham wants to come back here, and it sounds like he does, then I think this deal will get done pretty quick.
Yeah, I would agree. Absolutely. And then, as you mentioned, Jeff, earlier in the show, our own Josh Katzenstein breaking that restricted free agent Delvin Breaux will not be tendered by the Saints, so he will become a free agent tomorrow. Look, I've mentioned my thoughts on if I were Delvin Breaux at this point, I would want to go somewhere else. And it seems like that's going to be the case. His future will probably end up somewhere else. And then
we have 2 callers, but let's take a break.
And then, of course, Willie Snead, the news of that he will be tendered, but at the lowest tender. So we'll see if teams come after him because you don't lose anything. It's the no compensation tender. So plenty of tidbits all over the league, of course, all things Saints. So let's take a break right here on the show. I know we got a couple of callers online. Hang on. We will get to you right after this break. Drew Brees contract, done deal. We can move on with our lives and prepare for what's next, which seems like could be some moving and shaking here with the Saints and improving for 2018. So come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc Holder.